very quick recap, even without the presentation. I think the key points, Brian and Surani have touched on them quite well, and really some brilliant use cases that were given. I think from our perspective, just a couple of additional points that maybe was worth pointing out is that, you've also said it's not just a European phenomenon, open banking. We kind of always tend to look at it through the lenses of a European perspective and a UK perspective. But we do see this becoming quite a global trend. You see now quite a lot of initiatives around the world involving open banking. And I think one of the key characteristics that we see from our perspective and working in a number of quite diverse markets is that we see open banking initiatives in markets that are being used to actually jumpstart an ecosystem of services based on some of the key characteristics, let's say, that relate to open banking, like you mentioned. The need to drive lower cost solutions, the focus on the customer experience that needs, and there we are. Okay. Starting again. Like we said, it's no longer just about Europe. It's quite global. Hopefully, it will pick up a momentum where in the coming years. But there are initiatives, in all sorts of different countries these days, and it's not only about payments. Liquidity is a key issue. It's not just getting the payment and the cost, but also adding additional services that create a unique experience. So it's an evolutionary process, I would say, that you see more elaborate and more interesting use cases that involve multiple players. And I think that's another key ingredient. It's an ecosystem solution. It requires more players and partners in order for an open banking solution, an open banking industry, let's say, to take root. The key drivers, we've talked about it in various occasions. I think the previous presentation also touched on it very extensively. Regulation, obviously, is what's one of the key drivers. The user experience is key. Creating a user experience that's relevant to the consumer and the business that's related, the business that's selling the services. Customer needs, there's all sorts of additional customer needs that are being, let's say, worked on. Competition, I think, is also key. We are now seeing, and I think UK being one of the most mature markets in open banking now, I think there's probably close to 300 service providers in the space that are operating. I think that's also a key driver in creating open banking, an open banking, let's say, sustainable solution, sustainable industry. In terms of benefits, I think, again, we've been talking about them. It's cost is a key driver. I think this year is kind of a test case in terms of with the actual, with the economy and the cost of funding taking a very different turn than what we've been used to over the last 10 years. So that could be an interesting push towards adaptation of open banking. But at MPE, we look at it from a focus of the acquiring and the merchant perspective. So definitely, faster payments, the ability to receive merchant payouts much faster is one of the key topics that we also see when we talk with our customers. And improved customer service. Liquidity, at the end of the day, is a big factor. It's not just about cost, but liquidity, making those funds available faster, creating creating liquidity for the merchant is also an important component and one of the key topics of conversation that we have with our customers. So, and again, you actually mentioned a similar use case when you talked about the Uber case. So once you have that kind of data and once you're talking to your customers about additional services and better liquidity, using the data at the terminal in order to offer working capital solutions to a merchant in a very similar manner is a topic that's being looked at quite intently because there's a very strong use case for that, being able to use your merchant data to actually improve your liquidity position. Okay, at the heart of it, we are a tech company, so business process orchestration is actually what we do and what we talk to our customers about. So I guess the only thing that I would mention out of this slide is that from a tech perspective, and I'm not just talking about us, from a tech perspective, the solutions are there. The technology is already available, it's API enabled, it's flexible, and it can cater to all sorts of different use cases. You can use tech to bring legacy players into the equation. If a traditional bank is the one that's going to offer the lending or the liquidity, you could create very interesting use cases where you have a traditional player funding an account which is going through an open banking channel. So the tech is not the problem. Putting together the use case and in a collaborative model to create the momentum for open banking is where things are gonna happen in our view. And with that in mind, I thought we could share a little bit of a different experience that we've had. We've been working in some quite diverse markets over the last year. We've been working in Ethiopia with a network of companies. Ethiopia is the second largest country in Africa by population, fast-growing economy, 120 million people, and we've been working with one entity that's actually owned by all of the banks, and the goal was to foster a solution, an environment, an ecosystem for the country that would achieve a number of key targets in relation and create an open banking environment that would offer lower cost solutions, that will lower the transactional cost and allow for digitization of the economic environment. But there's another key driver behind that, which in Europe we tend to forget about it. In Europe we talk about use cases in a mature market. Open banking in certain contexts can actually be used as a financial inclusion instrument because it actually creates and introduces use cases that bring people into the economy for the first time. So, and that's what we've been doing in partnership with EarthSwitch in Ethiopia, and we've rolled it out a few months ago. We onboarded about 20 or so of the banks already. So already the lower cost per transaction that they wanted to hit, they've already hit it. But one of the key targets that they wanted to do was to create the infrastructure to develop a domestic fintech ecosystem on which open banking solutions could evolve. So we've taken kind of a more nascent approach in that sense there, so that we're creating the rails on where new innovation related to open banking can actually take place. I'll just finish with a question rather than a prediction, whether this year will be a breakout year for open banking. We'd like to think so. We certainly hope so. I mean, like I said earlier, technology is there, it is mature, and it's not really the hindrance to open banking adaptation. The economy, in a certain way, could be a boon for open banking, because the economic downturn, the higher interest rates, the higher costs may actually force a lot more attention on open banking initiatives and force a lot more people to consider seriously the use cases and the adaptation of open banking principles. And the last comment I would make is that we certainly see also a more mature position, a more mature understanding of open banking and how it can benefit. And so there is a certain behavioral shift towards open banking that probably wasn't there before. People are not dismissive of open banking the way they were a few years back, not so many years back, in fact. But I think people can understand a lot more about the benefits of open banking nowadays, and now it's up to the business innovators and the tech and vendor companies to actually work together in partnership and put use cases out there that make sense for the consumers, and hopefully adaptation and momentum will be a direct result of that. I'll just put a final slide just about who we are, put that at the end on my side. I mean, we are a technical service provider. We do a lot of things, including open banking. We work with financial institutions and banks and fintechs and governments and transport companies around the world. Payments and payment-related technology and infrastructure is our core competence. We have clients in more than 100 countries. We work a lot with central banks and government operations. We are Swiss-based. We are headquartered in Switzerland, and we have more than 350 clients to date. And that's all I had, I believe. Thank you.